Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Fred K. Schott. Fred, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to meet you. I feel like I hit you up on Twitter like yesterday, 2 days ago, and here we are today. I had a reschedule, and the timing just worked out. We're going to talk a little bit about why that timing was so quick, but first I want to talk a little bit about you. So for people who aren't familiar with you or your work, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on yourself?
Definitely. Yeah. No, this timing is perfect. We just launched a project called Astro on, I think it must have been Tuesday or Wednesday. So
Yeah.
you hit up the DMs and it was just like, yeah, let's do it. Instant turnaround. So I just launched a project called Astro with a couple of other developers working on it. It's a site builder. We're going to obviously get more into that. Previously, this work is really being built on top of something called Snowpack that you might have heard of, which is one of these like next-gen build tools that promises to be way faster than kind of the traditional bundler, and it uses all these cool like ESBuild, WASM-E, compiled language stuff under the hood to make that possible. Before that, worked on Polymer for a while and tooling there. I've just been a web developer for going on 10 years now, so I just love the space, and this tooling stuff is just kind of where I see that I can kind of make the most impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an exciting time for tooling right now. Like I feel like we're at the beginning of a kind of a new wave here, where it felt like for a long time we had started to really settle as a community around, we were using Babel, we were using Webpack, and everything was built on top of those tools. And I mean, they're fantastic tools, but as ES modules started coming out, as the JavaScript spec started to standardize, it was less and less necessary to need those tools. And with ESM going stable in Node, it feels like we just kicked open the door for like, how do we take those ideas and go to the next generation, right?
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. Like going from one module system to another, that's like a huge moment for a community of the language.
And it's super exciting to see. I know that like Snowpack is one way of kind of taking this ESM. That's something that you've worked on. There's the ESBuild and Vite movement that's happening. The Rust community's got, I think it's called SWC. So a whole bunch of really interesting ways of taking advantage of this new package. It's so exciting to me to see the ecosystem starting to innovate again in this space. Like it kind of felt like this space was done for a while, and it's not anymore. Well, here we go. Let's go. Yeah. So specifically, let's talk a little bit about Astro, because I think Astro is doing something that I've been really excited about, which is the promise of Astro is that I'm able to build a site using whatever framework I want, React, Vue, Svelte, whatever. But then when I ship it to the browser, there's no JavaScript unless I opt into dynamic things. Is that that's the promise, right? So
and opting into like individual dynamic things. A lot of frameworks offer that, but when you actually dig into it, it's like the whole site is static, or it's a full JavaScript app, or a whole page is static, or it's a JavaScript app. So we're really letting you per component almost sprinkle in like a little fairy dust magic of JavaScript.
Well, and this is exciting because this was always like, when you heard React introduced, this was the promise of React, was it's intended to be a component system. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the raids, for the subs. What a great time. I'm so happy to see y'all here.
I don't know how you talk with all the like noises and gifs. I am so impressed right now by your stream of focus. I have to just go dead-eyed and just forge ahead. But no, I think it's so exciting to me. Well, now I did lose my train of thought. I was saying, with React, like the original promise of React was you have content. Most of your content is there, and then React is a component framework that lets you take an individual div on a page and make it interactive. Over time, we've realized that that's not really how it shakes out in practice. You end up making a React website, so the div you make interactive is the whole website. But so this has the potential to be kind of a return to the roots of React, where you are saying like, well, most of the content we ship isn't dynamic. We're not usually like, my blog posts aren't interactive. My blog post might have one interactive piece. And so what you're saying with Astro is that's
that's the intention, right? Is that we get to keep the static thing static and only be interactive when it's time.
Yeah, that is 100% the goal here. And coming, like, you kind of nailed what happened, which is like over the last 10 years, this great developer experience with Webpack and Node, and like Next.js gets a huge call for just like a great developer experience. But what was going on behind the scenes is like, to get that and get all this power and features, more and more of your site was becoming JavaScript.
Yeah.
And that's really cool in a lot of ways. But like over time, like, I think without most of us, like really without even me noticing it, like all of a sudden it's like, wait, when I think of website, I'm thinking of like, what's the best JavaScript application to build? When at the start of React, it was a totally different world of like, I have a server, it's sending HTML, maybe it's written in like Rails or Python. And the front end is the front end, it's a separate thing. The two really merged over the last decade, and JavaScript won out in terms of which we think of as like the web developer language.
Right. Yeah. And I think, there's some really exciting kind of, we've done a lot of exploration in this space. And I think that it felt like for a while you needed, if you were going to build a dynamic site, you were like, okay, well, I'm building it in PHP. That was my only option. But then over time, JavaScript kind of came in. We got the DHTML, which became jQuery, which became Backbone, and that became React and Angular and the things that we use today. And yeah, as you said, it all just kind of crept forward. But so with Node, you can do all those server side things, but it requires front end developers to go so broad in their skill set that it becomes kind of like, that mythical full stack developer, right? And that's not really feasible for most of us to gain that breadth of skills to be able to not just like build a website, but like also build and deploy and scale a server. It's just too much stuff. Which I think is why we kind of landed on this front end model or the pre-generated decoupled model that gets bundled up under the Jamstack, right?
Yeah, and you'll see when we dive into it, like this whole framework is a love letter to that like PHP tag that let you like mix some HTML and then like server logic and then back to HTML. Like
okay.
This is like a new thing, but it's like really leaning on like, no, those things were cool. Like, can we make those work in the modern web developer? I'm sure I just like lost all of your audience with
no. I think
that
that's
statement, but it's cool.
But I think that's an important thing to talk about, because it really is true that like a lot of times we're coming out and we're saying like, hey, look at this new thing we built. And sometimes we forget to call back to like, well, we didn't like invent this. We just took a good idea and polished it up for today. And I think that's a really good way to look at it, because it reminds us that like this all goes in cycles. We're not like, this isn't magic. There are very few net new things in web development.
100%.
It's usually a repackaging of an idea that worked at the time and then didn't keep up with demands. And so now we figured out a way to take that idea and keep up with today's demands. So I'm really excited to see how this works. So I guess I have a couple questions about Astro itself before we dig in and start coding with it, because there are a few things in the announcement post that I'm very excited about, and I'm just curious how y'all are thinking about it. So the first thing that I saw is, you were shouting out to frameworks like Remix and other open source, like not necessarily open source, but like people who are building on top of open source in ways that make it sustainable, that make it into a business. And you mentioned that this is kind of the goal for Astro. So your intention is not to turn Astro into a business. Is that correct?
Yeah, Astro, the thing that is like not like ever, it's always going to be free, MIT licensed. I think everyone's tackling this differently. Like, I don't know if Remix would consider itself open source. I don't mean that to be a spicy comment, but like it's literally closed source. You need a license to use it in production.
Right.
That doesn't feel, that's definitely not the model we're going with here. It's early days. We're still trying to figure out where we fit in and where we could kind of build more enterprise focused features on top of this. That's kind of how we see it as a team.
Yeah, and I think there's this is a whole episode in and of itself about talking about the sustainability of open source. It feels like the hot topic today is how do we make it sustainable without everybody needing to turn their open source project into a VC funded business, and it's challenging, right? It's hard.
Yeah, it's a weird time for it, and I've come from projects that didn't do that. Like just kind of was either me working on it myself or like trying to get donations. That was the original project. It had a name Pika. I think if anyone remembers that project, it was like a couple of years back, and that was like totally on Patreon. And you really have to like go out and like hustle to get donations, and it becomes a full-time job in itself to like market it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not sustainable if you're trying to then also on top of that build open source software to the degree and maintenance that we're trying to provide.
Yeah. And so there's a question in the chat about with everything that y'all are shipping, because the team behind Astro is the Snowpack and Skypack team, right?
Yeah. So Drew Powers, Nate Moore, Matthew Phillips have all been kind of instrumental in building this out.
Yeah. So there's the question is just kind of like, how do you see, is the future of Astro dependent on those products, or like how does it become a sustainable? And I know this is kind of a vague question, but like how do you make this sustainable? How do you keep it going?
Yeah, so it's Snowpack was a lot more like, how can we fit Snowpack and Skypack together and then like hand wave a business on top of that? Just because it was so early. I think Astro is actually, it's both so inspired by those two projects, but like really kind of forging its own path. I don't think we're ever going to be like, and then a paid Skypack subscription to that.
Okay.
I think what we see more, and where we're, again, it's really early, so like this isn't me sidestepping, I just don't really know the answer. The main area where we see kind of no one looking at right now is this idea of like, just like what are the different types of things that you can integrate into a site that is no longer JavaScript based. It's more of a like HTML based language. So even the idea of like, site themes, like premium components, and it kind of gets back to this idea of like, how do you make open source software sustainable? We kind of want to see like, what does like an ecosystem of components or integrations or like anything, we're like trying to find out, is there something that could kind of like sit on top of this as an ecosystem of helping people kind of, get, users.
So sort of the WordPress model, like WordPress, the software is free, but there's this whole ecosystem of themes and plugins and lots of like premium and paid things on top of that.
Yeah, this kind of got lost in the final blog post, but like we really see this as a platform that we're building. So right now it's a static site builder. We wanted to have dynamic support eventually. Like we really see us as building a platform that you would kind of buy into, totally open core, but then things on top of it you can opt into that some would be paid, some would be free, and trying to play around in that space.
Okay, yeah, cool. And so that reminds me of another question I have, which is, you did something that I would have thought is extraordinarily hard, which is you're promising that you can write for Astro with any framework. You can use React, Vue, Svelte. So to me, hearing that as a developer, I'm hearing we have to build the same thing in every language every time a feature comes out. So I'm just curious, like, how are you approaching that? How does that shake out in like practical?
Yeah, so it's React, Preact, Svelte, and Vue that are supported out of the box. And the idea is that you can bring your own renderer. So we just had someone had a Glimmer renderer. Someone's working on a lit HTML.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's even almost like worse than if you think of it in that way. We're really biting off something here. But this actually, I don't think we realized this until we really started digging into it. This is kind of a conceptual part of Astro, which is that we do say that we support all those as Vue, like UI, like build a component with this. We are moving a lot of the data loading, like almost website appy things out of those languages. So there's this idea of having a base kind of Astro application where Astro is the one handling like, okay, when I hit this route, what gets loaded, or I want to build these pages. So let me create like, a paginated collection of pages. We're trying to move a lot of like what has become, just because whether it's like React is the one building Create React app, or the Next.js team is like so bought into React. Svelte Kit is written by the people who do Svelte. Like we have this idea that all of this gets integrated into the UI framework, but we kind of forget it was like designed as a UI framework. So it can do these things, but it like doesn't necessarily have to be where that lives. And so we're kind of stripping down like all of the things you've learned about React come into play. But we're not like adding get static props like Next.js would into React and then having to go and add it to Svelte and Preact. Like we're trying to move that out, keep the UI layer relatively tight and focused on rendering, and then we own the like app part of your site.
Yeah, for sure. I commend you on keeping a straight face as the chat attempts to bury us in boops here. But no, and that makes sense. I see. I think this will become clearer when we actually start looking at the code as well. So honestly, maybe this is. See, I don't want to.
Do we have to stop talking when we start drowning in boops?
You either have to stop talking, or you have to start sounding like you're underwater. Is really like. Oh no!
I'm drowning. It's like a horse.
Okay, so chat, I apologize for what I'm about to do, but I'm going to switch us over into pair programming mode, which is going to undo all of your hard work. Oh no!
Jason couldn't
I'm
hang.
sorry, everyone.
Jason couldn't hang with the boops.
Oh, foiled again, chat. Foiled again. Okay. But okay, so let's do this. We are over here. We are looking at learnwithjason.dev because we have live captioning happening. We've got Rachel here with us today. Thank you so much. She's here from White Coat Captioning, and they are working to make this site the show more accessible to more people, which I really appreciate. And that is made possible through the support of our sponsors, Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, and Hasura, all kicking in to make the show more accessible to more people. We have Fred on the show today. So if you're not already following, make sure you get over there and make that happen. See, look what's happening. Now I can't even, we just have to strategically position things.
No, my plugs. My plugs are hidden.
And we're going to be working with Astro today. So I'll drop another link in here so that y'all can grab that. This is, just scroll that right up, build faster websites with less client-side JavaScript. And so this is the part that I think is most interesting, is the promise here is not that this is a framework that will be faster because it's more optimized JavaScript. This is saying we'll be faster because we just won't ship any. And there's really nothing faster than shipping no JavaScript. Like just sending down HTML and CSS is always going to be really snappy because you're not making the processor do any work. The feature phones aren't having to do a ton of rendering work and main thread work. So you get a really nice experience kind of by default. That's why people disable JavaScript sometimes.
We really like this idea of the pit of success, which is the idea that like by default a site should be fast. That's not the case with a lot of tools right now. It's like kind of you need to go out of your way to make a site fast. You really need to understand the performance trade-offs. We talk about in the blog post. It's something we really care about here, that like you have to go out of your way to make a slow site in Astro. That's the plan. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, and I like this. I mean, this is a good way of talking about it. A well-designed system makes it easy to do the right things and annoying but not impossible to do the wrong things. So I've repeated the phrase, make the right thing the easy thing. I think setting good defaults is another way of saying this. The pit of success is a nice, well-known way to do it. But I think I really like this as a general design methodology, is thinking about the fact that we've got studies. Over half of people are going to choose the default. So by default, do the right thing, and you immediately have improved whatever ecosystem you're a part of, whatever community you're a part of. And I think thank you for the hat, chat. And I think that really is something that is so easy to overlook as a designer. You're like, oh, well, we'll make the defaults like quick so that you can see how it works, and then don't consider that like 50% of people are going to ship that to production.
Yeah, or like at its worst, it's like you're bad for building a slow site, which you see like more. I mean, it's not like people taking pot shots on Twitter. It's not real, but it's like kind of gets soaked into the mentality a little bit. Like, oh, like you don't know what you're doing, versus like you didn't have time, or like you're just trying to build a product so your company survives. Like, it's a really wrong, lopsided way of thinking about performance. We feel, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, I could talk about this from a philosophical angle like all day, but here's what we should do. Let's actually build something. So if I'm a new developer, I want to try this out. What's the first thing I should do with Astro?
I would go to the launch post where we have the snippet for getting started.
Okay.
That's still kind of our like pre-launch placeholder that we haven't gotten around to updating. So this is, it'll take you here, and then this is kind of the snippet to run.
Okay, so I'm in a project. I made a README, so I might have to delete this to get it to work.
Ooh, but great question. I think we might just overwrite it. I think that's what ends up happening.
We've got Fred in here. We're going to do a collaborative session today. We're using VS Code Live Share for that. And let's just see what happens if I run, what was it, npm init astro? Yep. npm init astro. Let's see what happens. I love this init, let's see, must use import.
Oh, this is so good. We actually see this a lot, way more than I expected when we launched. What version of Node are you on?
Great question. Let's find out. I need to use 14.
or the latest version of 12. So this we totally didn't expect. So you could just like the latest LTS, which I think is 12 now.
I think I have 14 installed, so I'm just gonna.
That works too.
Yeah, downloading a new version of Node, sometimes it's nice and fast, and other times it takes like 8 minutes. So
fair enough.
We'll just use this one, and then let's try init Astro again. All right, directory not empty, continue. Yes, I would like to continue. We're going to set up, what do you think?
Let's do the starter kit, but they're all pretty great. So we really wanted to have a couple of example sites here.
Okay. Into the starter kit we go. And, oh, here we go. All right, so we've got a README. We've got a astro.config, and this has no settings in it. All right, comes in empty, nice and easy. Let's look at this source folder here. So we've got components and pages. I see the first thing that sticks out is it's .astro. So we've got a new suffix for files.
Can't wait to talk about that.
Okay.
It's TLDR, it's HTML. It's HTML with like some JSX kind of things going on.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, looking in here in our index, this is a standard HTML document. So we've got our doc type, we've got our HTML tag. So nothing's coming out of Astro. I'm feeding it all the markup. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah.
Okay. And then down here, I've got, am I going to find a .astro syntax highlighter?
Yes, I was going to say the first thing I would do is get a syntax highlighter. So there are two. It's the second one. We have not bumped them up. That's like a dead extension.
Okay.
So we're gunning for that top spot.
For that number one spot. Okay, so let's do this. Oh, get out of here. Here.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're just going to jump right into it, let me give a little bit of overview of what this file is and what a .astro file is.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the whole idea here was like HTML is kind of our base language. We want to think in terms of HTML, and we want to make it really easy to use HTML and kind of give it some superpowers. The like quick analogy would be like it's like JSX but for HTML.
Okay.
The two ways we did that, the main one is the idea of bringing components into HTML. So it's a superset. If you just put in an HTML snippet, it's going to render totally perfectly. Mm-hmm. But that Tor is a great example of that is actually a component being run. So when it gets to this part of building your site, it'll actually go and use that HTML or the rendered markup from that component.
Right.
So a really similar model to what everyone else is using now, JSX, React, Svelte, everything, but for HTML.
Cool.
We use this front matter system where basically there's a -- and then you're able to put some setup JavaScript at the top. In this case, we're doing an import.
Yeah. Okay. So basically a fenced block lets you do, and this is like any custom JavaScript, or I'm probably getting ahead of myself here.
No, think of it as like a little bit of a setup script, or if you have a React component, it's like what runs before the JSX.
Okay.
But you can put in like, const hello equals world, you can do anything inside of there.
Okay. So we've got the ability to embed a component here, and then this tour component looks like so. So I'm importing Markdown, and then
we got to talk about Markdown at some point. It might be a little advanced for where we're at right now, but we do let you mix Markdown with HTML, which is so cool.
Okay, and is that's through this component here?
Yep. Nice.
So I mean, and this is really something that I am, I'm a fan of. Like, I don't want to write my content as HTML. So being able to drop this in, this is slick. I like this approach here.
There've been a couple of times where I built like marketing site material, and it's like, okay, cool. I have these like 6 divs on the page that are like highlighting different parts of something. It's like, okay, now I have to like go paragraph, strong. Like all of a sudden I'm back in the world of like creating my own A link tags. This kind of gives you a little bit of a hook into a more Markdown focused, but without having to throw it all out and use a file. It lets you intermix.
Yeah. Well, cool. So now we've got here's our basic site, and I can see here that we've got the access to Markdown. It looks like there's a section of components. So I can see this working. So let's see if I can just run it. I'm going to run npm run start, and let's see if we can get this thing doing what I want. Npm run start. Uh-oh, what doesn't it like? Oh, I need to actually install my dependencies, don't I?
We don't do that for you by default.
Oh, is somebody...
Just because so many people use Yarn and npm.
Thank you for gifting the subs, Ben. That is very much appreciated. So welcome to everybody who just came in. You now have access to the boop emote, and as well as the holy bucket. You can have me doing some thumbs ups. You got all sorts of options now. Make sure you use those boops now that you got access.
This is a way delayed, but someone was in the chat saying ham stack, which just a huge shout out to that person.
Ham stack is how I make sandwiches. What ultimately is going to happen is I feel like at some point in the future, I'm going to just fully burn out from being a developer, and I'm going to open up a food truck, and it's just going to be a food truck that only makes sense to developers because all the sandwich names are going to be puns. So you'll be able to get like the ham stack, or let's see if I can come up with another one on the fly. I bet I can't.
Yeah, wow, you really set yourself up. You better deliver on this premise. Because right now you've just stolen mine or the chat's.
Yeah, that's all I got. Ooh, lisp and onions. Yeah, no, gross. Toast was so easy. Toast was such a low hanging. Yeah.
Toast.
But yeah, I think this is so okay. So I've installed my dependencies here, and then I can run start again. Here we go, Astro Dev.
Steam Jamel. You got a funny chat.
What else you got, chat? Sandwich names, sandwich puns.
This would be a good time to say, so the one thing about where we're at right now, this is definitely like beta release, and probably on the earlier side of that. So even like this output is like noisier than I want it to be. Maybe you didn't even notice it. Like I'm sure most people don't, but we're doing a bunch of stuff this week just to kind of like tighten up a lot of the first user experience. So it's only getting better from here.
Yeah. Okay. And I can see like we got some view in here.
Yeah, this is built on Snowpack internally. So what this is doing is just kind of like handling your dependencies for the first time.
Nice. Okay.
You totally don't need to worry about it if this is your first time seeing that. And it shouldn't be that noisy. Anyway.
Ruby Rubens. So now if I go in here, let's just play a little bit. I'm going to get in here, hide the sidebar, and open up my tour. And let's just add some new content. I'm going to take out this part. Let's save it. And does it do hot reloading, or do I have to do anything?
We just fixed the bug that was causing it not to. So as of this demo, no. Probably by the time people see this in the future, yes.
Cool. Okay. But so I'm all right. I can command R. So I didn't have to stop or restart the server. I just made the change, and so I can pop this one out of here.
Yeah, so it's really just HTML. Like if you've ever copied a snippet of HTML into a React component, and you're like, find a replacing class to be class name, or it doesn't work because it's actually JSX. Like the whole idea is this is valid HTML. Any HTML snippet can be thrown in here and it'll work.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about styles here. What do we have going on with the styles?
Oh, that's a great call out. I always forget to talk about this. Drew did a ton of work on this, Drew Powers. So there's a couple of things that we will kind of like enhance for you. So the snippet of JavaScript up top is actually valid TypeScript. So you can write your TypeScript there and it'll be fine.
Okay.
Styles, we actually do some processing to give you scope styles. So they are scoped to the Astro component that you're working in.
Oh,
so you're writing your styles. There's a fallout if you want to use global styles. But by default, these styles are actually scoped. So they won't bleed out of the component and impact any other component on the page.
So yeah, so we can see the things here are kind of tagged in like that. That makes sense. Okay.
It supports Sass by default. I think you just have to do lang equals Sass. So that's built in as well. Tailwind is supported, although I can't remember the exact instructions to enable that.
Yeah, it looked like there was a list of like...
Yeah, we did our due diligence to just create a final
It supports TypeScript, Scope CSS, CSS modules, Sass, Tailwind, Markdown, MDX, and any of your favorite NPM packages.
Yeah, huge promise there.
That's a bold claim.
I will never regret that, I promise. Yeah. It's just that any good NPM package. No, we do a good, because we're building on top of Snowpack, which has had like 3 years of doing this. It's pretty good at handling your dependencies.
Yeah. No, this is pretty exciting right out of the. I mean, the fact that we're here is good, right? But so all right, so let's talk about practical use cases, right? There are things that we're going to need to do as developers when we build sites, and so I think you had a list of things that you were hoping to cover. So I'm going to let you drive on what we should look at next.
Yeah, I'd say there's one other big part of this that is definitely worth kind of diving into, because there's two parts of, so I mentioned like two parts of Astro Component. One is just like the idea of being really HTML. We kind of talked about the Markdown a bit. The other is how you intermix, like, again, it's a static site builder, so it's not interactive content, but like dynamic content, you can call it.
Right.
Something that you want to maybe loop over an array of things to create, you know, a table, or just any sort of like, you know, something that lives in a variable. How do you actually bring that into the page? So we really like that JSX for HTML is actually way closer than you think. Basically, you can use a JSX syntax to add dynamic content into this site, into this component you have here, for example.
Okay.
So you could put like seasoned astronaut as a variable in the JavaScript up top.
Okay, let's grab it. And I'm gonna
Just
pull
create
that
like a
out.
string. Yeah. And then down in the strong that you just took this out of, do like the curly bracelet name. Yeah. And that should render exactly the same.
Is it with the $sign or?
No, this is JSX, so no $sign.
Oh, JSX. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't JSX, but yeah, that's the inspiration here. Maybe give it a little change so you can see that it's updated.
There it goes.
There you go.
So it does what we want.
So you can do that with, you know, variables in the markup. You can do it with like attributes if you have a class name.
Yeah, this is great.
Let's do a more like advanced. If you want to create that into like an array, and then we could loop over it. I can show you how a more like advanced snippet would work. We grab some names from chat or something.
Let's do, we can do like, oh, you want to loop over it like are we trying to do like a list of things, or are we trying to like pull one at random, or what's the
let's do a list.
Goal?
Let's do a list.
Okay. So ideas.
You do your sandwich names.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna do ham stack, right? That's one. Yeah. What else did we get? We got the Ruby Reuben. What were the other ones, Chad?
Steamed YAMLs was my favorite. It's not a sandwich, but
it's all right. It's okay. It's a general purpose food truck, right? We're gonna that's good enough to start. Yeah. Okay, so here we go with Python. Ooh, crispy fried steak sandwich is good.
Is it bad that I missed that one. Is that a chat joke that I'm not getting?
CSS.
Oh, they're nice. I'm actually a little embarrassed I didn't get that.
CoffeeScript. We don't do CoffeeScript here.
But
I'm
it
just
writes
kidding.
itself.
Wait, what was it? What was it? Toast. We want toast. Yeah. Gotta have toast. All right. So now we've got our ideas. Cool. I'm gonna call them sandwich ideas. And okay, so I've got an array.
So now really treat this like, the best way to think of it is treat it like JSX. Like, how would you create some looping markup content inside of, exactly.
So, okay, so I'm going to do sandwich ideas map, and then I'm going to get an idea. And inside of this, I would do a list item, and I would put out the idea.
Yep.
Do I need to do keys or any other kind of specialty stuff here?
We could talk about that a bit, just more as a conceptual thing, because we're only targeting server rendering. This is so much simpler than what it would look like in any, like, there's no keys to worry about. There's no reactivity.
I have made a mistake.
I don't think you have, is the problem.
Okay, so I've got my sandwich ideas.
Did any console logs happen in the browser maybe?
Oh, good question.
I'm trying to think of where this could have happened. No.
Did I mess this up in a way that it's
it looks so solid. If this is just a parser error, try getting rid of the curly bracelet at the end of 25 and at the start of line 27. Like, just give this a more. So to make it at the end of the line, so that it's.
I'm not returning it. That's what the problem is. That was the whole.
Okay,
so
good. That's what I was hoping.
Okay, well, good. All right, so the good news, chat, is that I'm a doofus, which is always the best news when we're running into problems in code. Okay, so all right, here we go. We've now looped over an idea. This is very straightforward. We're mapping. We've got this set up here. And it looks like, you know, if we were doing this like true JSX style, we'd have a parentheses to show that like we're just returning this outright. But I don't know. We get to define our own preferences now. This is a whole new world of .astro syntax highlighting suggestions. Yeah. So this makes sense. I mean, this makes sense to me. Like I get it. I see where we're going.
Yeah, and this is all right now in the world of HTML. So this is all being server rendered when you build your site, static, zero JavaScript. I don't know if there's any detours you want to go on, but like the obvious next thing would be like, what's this promise of using React and static rendering? So I would say like we could create a little sandwich menu item as a React component or framework of your choice.
Yeah, let's do a little React component. So am I just going to do this the way that I always would? I'm going to create like a .jsx file for.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do a menu.jsx, and then inside of it, I don't need to do any importing of React. So instead, I'm going to export default function menu, and our menu is going to take. Let's take ideas, right? And then that can return our list of ideas. So actually, we can just pull this part right out. So let's take our list of ideas, and we're going to map that. I got part of this wrong. Map idea here.
Oh, yeah, I need a parentheses on the end of line 4. Oh, you got
it. Got it. Yeah, good. Prettier helping me out. Okay, so we've got that, and then here to make it not yell at me because it's JavaScript or because it's React, we'll do sandwich and throw in the idea, so we get a unique key. Okay, so then if I was going to use this, I would do it by importing menu from components menu.
Yeah, and yeah, actually that probably will work. Tor is in the components directory, so you could just do /, I believe.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so we'll get it from menu, and then instead of this, I'll do a menu, and my ideas will be sandwich ideas. All right, will it blend? Whoops, okay. No renderer found for menu, so I did not add a renderer to my Astro config. Well, that's a helpful error message.
I forgot that we made these opt-in, so yeah, that's a great call out. You need to add one of those.
Okay, so
actually,
I
thought those were opt-in, or on by default. Maybe we pulled that out.
Okay, so to do a renderer, I need to go here somewhere. Project README, maybe?
Yeah, it's in the Astro config. I'm just trying to pull up the... find the Astro config doc.
Config. Here.
Yeah.
And then we've got renderers. So I can do a renderer down here.
Yep.
And we're going to use, I'm assuming it's like Astro.js renderer React.
Yep. I'm actually remembering why we need this. So the big problem we were hitting was, how do we know if you wanted Preact or React there?
Oh, okay.
I think that was the main reason we're like, okay, you got to opt in by name at least. So
actually, I could use like Preact here because we didn't write any React specific stuff.
Yep.
So I could just grab that. So let's use Preact. Let's try it. So we're going to do Preact. Now I'm assuming I need to install this.
Yes. Try running it. You should install it. That would be like the right thing to do.
Yeah, let's
do
the right thing.
We might have it as a dependency, but let's do the right thing.
Looks like it updated one package. Yeah, so it didn't need it. But we've updated it. And now when I go back here and I load this page, it doesn't like...
Oh, maybe it's not picking it up.
Renderers. Did I spell this wrong? That's a distinct possibility.
No, it looks like, so if this doesn't work, let's check out the menu. Or sorry, let's check out the, how are you importing it?
I am importing it as import menu from menu.jsx.
Huh. That's surprising.
Astro. Oh wait, what is it not like? No renderer found for menu.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Do I need to import React or something?
Maybe.
Oh, it's Preact. Do I need to like set the pragma?
You shouldn't. Do like an import something from Preact. Maybe we actually had a trigger by that.
Maybe I should use React because I can't remember the Preact pragma off the top of my head. So
right.
let's
not complicate things.
Yeah, let's do this the way that I have the syntax by default.
Yeah, let me check another project.
Oh, H was the one. So let's try this and we'll npm run start and let's see if it just does the thing.
Oh, the last thing I'd say is, what is your renderers? Like, go back. Oh, yeah, I think renderers. No, that is spelled right. RENDERERS.
Yeah, and we've got renderer React.
That is so strange. I have another project where this is working fine.
Maybe I
beta software. Throw that at the top.
Let's just pull in React and see if maybe it just needs to
go for it.
Okay, so it just needs to be identified as React in some way. Which is so that's something that can be improved, but it definitely works as expected now, and we get our ham stack. Now, as a question, is this HTML right now?
Yeah, so throw open the network panel. So it would be good to. So what you did before the error rabbit hole was turned a Astro component, which was HTML, into a React component, and then replaced it. You are going to see some dev stuff here, but as far as actual component JavaScript, there's no menu.jsx or anything here.
Yeah, and it looks like we can see. We
can see
pulled
the
in
Tor CSS. Yeah, coming in.
Yeah, but we pulled in 7 kilobytes, which is. I mean, and that in and of itself is pretty exciting because we, in a standard, in a standard project running React, I think you're pulling in close to 30 kilobytes just for React core, which is, again, there's a point where that trade-off makes sense, but when you're doing content on a page, it doesn't necessarily make sense for that to be a thing. So, for something like this, where I just want to show you a list of stuff, I want to be able to write React to display my content, but I don't necessarily need you to load React to view the content.
Yeah.
So I do like this as kind of a, let's use React for the DX, but not necessarily put that into the user's experience.
Yeah, and the worst offender of this is how many layout components I build in a React site that get shipped to the client, render once, and then mever change.
Right. Yeah.
This is my page layout. This is the layout for this. It's just it's.
I do that constantly. I am always taking some piece and I build out these elaborate layouts in HTML that are literally just layouts. They're not dynamic. They're not intended to be interactive. They're just there to look like something.
Right.
But I still ship a bunch of JavaScript. Yeah.
And then you're doing CSS and JavaScript, so that's coming along for the ride. There's all these ways that just spirals out of control.
Yeah. So I am excited about this. I think this is really cool. But now, if I have a use case where I do want this to be interactive, let's do the classic framework example of a button with a counter. If I want to make that a thing, I would do that by creating the standard. We'll do a button.jsx. Yep. And then I'll import everything as React from React. Let me close that sidebar so we can see. And then I'm going to export default, I'm not. I'm going to export function button. And that's not going to take any arguments. And we're going to, actually, you know what? I think I can just get use state. Let's see if that works. And then I can const count, set count equals use state. We'll set it at 0. And then we're going to return a button. And our button is going to on click. We'll do a set count to count +1. And inside of it, we'll just show the count. All right, so this is a pretty standard like React button, right? This is something that we've seen in the docs and an example that we've all, if we've worked with React, probably built at some point to see how use state works. But this requires JavaScript in the browser. Like to make this work, you have to be able to run this JavaScript when somebody clicks the button. So if I pull this into my tour, so I'm going to import button from button. Then I'm going to stick this down at the bottom here. Let's put it in the section. That seems like a good idea. And then I'm going to come out here. And I did something wrong. I need to get, looks like we do need this part. So we'll do it that way. There we go. Now I've got a button. And when I click it, nothing happens because I did something wrong or because it's not working.
No, so this is actually the one thing I want us to, it's like such a subtle thing because your first instinct is like something didn't work. But remember, like that's kind of the trick here is that everything is static by default. So this shouldn't work by default. That's the trade-off here.
Okay.
Right? It's static content. There's no JavaScript. So you click it and nothing would happen.
So it's rendered. We rendered it to the initial state, but we removed the like JavaScript-y part.
Yeah, or we just never sent it to the client exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously not ideal here. That's not what you wanted. So the next thing to look at would be how do we actually opt in this component for interactivity.
Okay, and I want to do that by...
So go back to where you use button. It's all about where you use the thing.
Okay.
Let me make sure I get this right. And you just take the name of button and like button : load is the simplest way to do it. So add a colon and then write the word load.
Okay.
That's it.
Bop, bop. Okay. So let's look at what happened here. So so we've got our what's yelling at me? Text content did not match.
Yeah, and it changed.
Oh, it probably changed it to like a tokenized string or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting. It changed also like the styling of it as well versus that. So I don't know if that's a React thing or maybe a bug we need to fix. But the idea here is that like it should look exactly the same in both cases, but now it's hydrated. Now it's actually doing some cool stuff.
Yeah. So in our network panel, then what changes is now we've got we've got development React. So that's going to be very, very, very different from what we would get in production. But it does bring in, the things we need. Here's React, here's React DOM, and the pieces that we need to make this function. And if I turn this off again, then those pieces don't show up anymore. So, okay, so this is clever. This is really nice. And now this : load, that's not the only way that you can do it though, right? There are other options.
Yeah, that's just the simplest. And you can see this in the README, but it's basically saying that'll like render it on page load. It's like the simplest way. It'll hydrate as quickly as possible.
Okay.
There's also : idle, which will basically use a request idle callback so that like once the page is stopped loading, now we're gonna like kind of sneakily hydrate it behind the scenes.
Let's watch that happen. So what we should see then is there should be like work and then it'll do more work at the end. So here we go. There, see that?
Oh. Yeah, there it is. So that's it loading this component. And again, we're doing it in development, so I think you can see a lot of different smaller things loading. In production, that would be one JS file getting loaded.
Right. But still, this is slick, right? Because this part happened after the fact. So see, these are the metrics that like Chrome is looking for when it gives you your Lighthouse scores. So the fact that we're waiting for the browser to be done and then hydrating things, this in and of itself is a huge win for performance. So, I mean, it's not a win for like parsing performance. So if you're on a low power device, you still have to download and parse all this JavaScript. But for loading performance, this is great.
Yeah. The last one is my favorite because it's like easily just the coolest, which is : visible. And this is one we talk about a lot just because it's like such a feature of this way of thinking where we can actually per component. So take this button, you say you want to render it when visible. That means that if it's not on the page, it's not going to load.
Okay, so look, we've got no React. I see this visible.js. So let's get it on the page.
Yep, so visible, and you can even click into that.
Goes.
It's an intersection. Yeah, it's an intersection observer.
That's cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's, and this is that's a little baby file. So 25 lines of code here.
Yep.
And yeah, here's the intersection observer. So this is great. And like you can see, and this is the sort of thing that I really like too, because I'm a big fan of like lazy loading images. So being able to lazy load my interactive components, like for example, if I'm doing my comments, for example, and nobody ever scrolls down all the way to the bottom to read the comments, why make them download that script? So I want people who want to use the comments to download it because that's useful. But if you're just reading the first couple of headlines, you decide, no, I'm not going to read that article. You shouldn't have to download that JavaScript. Like,
right.
I am hurt that you don't want to read what I had to say, but I'm not a vindictive person.
Now, everyone who loads a blog post reads it all the way to the end, right?
Exactly.
Including myself. Yeah, there's something cool worth talking about here, which is kind of a little philosophical, but really gets into like why this is so like neat, basically, which is that, and this kind of ties into a bit of like what React Server components are doing, which they're doing a lot of work so that like when you render an entire page as an entire application, today that's like a really like heavy operation where the whole thing has to render. You get this like uncanny valley where you click a button and nothing happens because it's still loading the JavaScript, even though you did some sort of rendering on the server.
Mm-hmm.
What's nice about this is that each of these components that you opt into is essentially an island, and it's an isolated one. So let's say you have like this button, which is really lightweight, a really heavy like image carousel, and then like a buy button, which you really want to work.
Yeah.
Each of those renders and loads individually. So depending on when you kind of throw them in that life cycle, you can kind of control the when. But also, even if they're loading in parallel, a really light buy button is essentially going to hydrate as quickly as possible and not be blocked by that image carousel that's taking up a lot more of your bandwidth, taking up like rendering time. Each of them renders as they come in and so it's totally these like separate islands. And then it's this term island architecture that Jason Miller coined from the Preact team that kind of defines that idea where it's not one big app, it's a page with separate components running in isolation.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So there's a question about how does visible work if one component is depending on some other component that's not yet visible? I feel like I have a suspicion of what the answer is.
I mean, I'd love to hear your suspicion.
Okay. So here's my suspicion. Components can't depend on each other without some kind of a context, right? And so to put that context in, the context would become visible, which would make all of the components load as soon as the first one becomes visible. Is that right?
I'm trying to think through. I think we're not because of anything we've done, but I think it ends up being a little bit smarter than that, which is, and this is a really cool thing about this model, right? Because it's like all of a sudden you start thinking in components and not pages. And traditionally when you're bundling a site, right, you're kind of like, the easiest thing is like, this page will have this bundle, this page will have this bundle, anything shared will go into a common bundle, and that's that. Our model, because we're no longer thinking in pages, a page is static by default. We actually start thinking of each island as its own entry point, its own bundle.
Mm-hmm.
So this button actually gets its own, I mentioned it like in production, it's a single JS file. The button gets a button.js bundle that runs that thing. And if it shared that with another component, like they have some common state, like a store that they both reference, that would get pulled into a common chunk that they would share. So we're kind of letting the bundler do the magic a little bit here.
Oh, interesting.
Where if code can be separated and chunked and bundled, it's going to be as efficiently as the bundler allows it to, as a bundler lets it be. So two components sharing some common state, you're loading the button bundle and you're loading the common bundle, but you're not actually having to trigger the loading of like the top level other components that might be on the page.
Okay, that makes sense. I was trying to think of a way to do that, but I can't, because for me to share state between this button and something else, I would have to like add context or some other way of them to share common state.
So that's the React concept that is a little bit trickier right now, which is like, the actual idea of passing context. These are isolated render trees.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets it like, how do we share JavaScript? But then like, context actually is isolated right now.
Yeah. Okay.
The feature I want to add is the idea of like, you can actually define the context that is like the root of all these things. So like a global context that would then get applied to all trees. So it would like kind of allow you to have that idea of everything is an individual tree, but they're sharing that context like reference.
Gotcha. Because that is a tricky part is like, if you want global state in a React app, you're basically wrapping the entire app in context, which means that the entire app needs to be React. And that's a thing that is not unique to React, but it isn't necessarily required for all frameworks, because I think other frameworks have different ways of approaching this that don't require that like shared global context to be wrapped around everything. And so there are ways to solve this. And I think you might have even talked about it in your post that like there's is it in here where it talks about like the way context works, or is it in your
it's probably in the README. Yeah, it's probably in the README.
Okay, let's get that README.
State management is definitely like kind of where we see a lot of people run into this problem.
Yeah, I think
and it kind of just
here
depends.
It is. Yeah, so with React, there's Redux is partial support for the reasons that we talked about. You have to wrap a provider, which makes everything into a React component. Or let's see, but Recoil works, Felt stores work, yeah. So depending on how it's implemented, it can work. But that idea of like split bundles and kind of sharing the things that are shared and the things that aren't, and you'll need to load the pieces you need at any given time. That part is compelling and really, really interesting to me. But we have about 30 minutes left, and there's a couple things that I want to make sure that we talk about today. One of them is you have a pattern for like loading data, and I think you had talked about collections. So I think collections was one thing that we wanted to look at. What was another you put a couple things into a tweet about what you wanted to cover today. Right. I want to make sure we have time.
Let's kind of go through data loading and see how far we can get, because there's a couple of things in there that would be interesting.
Okay. So if I was going to go with my gut, I would say I'm going to add node fetch and load some data. Is that...
Yes, you don't need to add node fetch though. So we actually provide fetch support out of the box.
Okay.
Just the fetch, access it like you would in the browser, just fetch. And we'll kind of polyfill that basically to run in Node as well.
Okay, so let's get some data. We'll pull some episodes, and I'll do it as JSX because that's what I know. So I'm going to import everything.
Oh, that's actually a good point. So we don't. Let's do this in an Astro component to start, and then we can kind of talk about what happens in a React component.
So here we go with an Astro component, and so I'm going to do a fenced code block. And in this, I'm going to get episodes. I have an API for Learn with JSON, so we'll use that.
Perfect.
And we'll do HTTPS. See if I can remember my own website. learnwithjson.dev API. Let's use the schedule because that's smaller.
Nice.
And that'll give us back a list of episodes. And then we'll get the response, and we know that that's JSON. So we will res JSON. And now that we've got that, we've got a list of episodes. I can't remember what's in it, so why don't we just dump it?
That should work. There's one thing missing from this, which is such a subtle thing, but it's like one of my favorite things secretly. Right now, the way this is written, episodes equals fetch is going to give you back that promise. So how do you get that actually into a string?
Obviously.
We support top level await.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So now I have episodes, which means I need to go in and use it. So let's go to the index and let's drop in episodes. And I forgot to import that, so it's arguing with me. Let's go up here. And there's our episodes. So let's go to... Here's our page. I'm going to close the network tab. I hit the wrong button. There we go. And I screwed something up. Didn't I? No, I didn't. Good. Okay, so here's our data. My pre-tag got blown out.
Oh my God.
Which is fine because that's a problem I know how to solve. So let me add a style tag here. And we'll do...
I'm so happy you just said that too. Like, that's a problem I know how to solve, is like the backbone of what we're trying to do here. Like, why didn't this render? It's like, I have to go read like some docs or something. Like, the whole idea is like, oh no, this is like HTML. I know how to do CSS. I know how to do, beta software, obviously, but like that is totally like the vision for what we're trying to do here.
Let's go with 500 pixels and make that a little narrower. There you go. Okay, so here's our data. So now we've got some data, which means I can pull a list of titles. So why don't we do that? I can make another UL, and we'll iterate over this the same way we did the other things. So we'll do episodes.map, and each one is going to give us an episode. which we will then turn into a list item. And we can do, what do you think? We can do a link. So we'll do an ahref equals, and we'll drop in the episode dot. Oh, look what I did. That was foolish. I didn't actually make a link. So we'll do learn with json.dev, and then we'll do the episode dot slug dot current. Okay. And inside of this, get out of here, I can put the episode dot title, and then we can do like with episode dot guest 0. This is the why have I done this? Name. Okay. So then, having done that, we should have a list.
The one thing is the href needs to be wrapped in a JSXE curly bracelet to get the template variable going in there.
Okay. So let me clear that part out. We don't need that anymore. So I need to do it like this.
Sorry.
And no, I screwed it up.
Li was left open. No, it wasn't.
I forgot to keep my quotes in.
No. Yeah, see if that fixes it. That work?
Yep. And it works. Links work. So there we go.
Nice.
Look at it go. Hey, so this is exciting, right? Like now we can do upcoming episodes. And we're building the website with third-party data, and look at it happen. I can do like an H2, give it some margin top so that we can breathe a little bit, Crowd buttons.
I love what the site is turning into. It's half punny restaurant menu and then half promotion of the live stream.
I think ultimately that's what I'm always going for.
Yeah,
is half helpful, half utter nonsense. So okay, so we were able to pull in some data. We've got top level await, which is this is handy. Like I love that I don't have to write a function and do some extra stuff. I can just kind of pull in the thing that I need, which is handy. What else should we look at here?
I think the collection stuff actually might be a little overkill for how much time we have left. I mean, we can just talk about it. There's you can basically take this data and take this template and turn it into a collection of pages. So it actually would render this, like if you wanted a page for every episode, it would essentially iterate over that and create a page, and actually like multiple pages would get generated from this one template. So we have support for that.
Should we try that?
How much time do we have?
And we got 25 minutes.
Yeah, then that'll work. I wasn't sure if there was a wrap up and include in that. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let's pull up the documentation then on the README just to follow along.
Okay, here's
for Astro.
There's the config. Let's get to the docs themselves.
Yeah, look for it's called
collections.
Yeah.
All right, here's collections. So we figured out the fetching data part. So I can do source pages.
So we would need to add code. Is that right?
That's right. That's right, chat. So deciding on a URL schema, that's what we want. So we could do like, schedule or something, or episode.
Yep.
Good. And then I create it like so. Oh, like this.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a special type of Astro component. It starts with a $, and that basically enables this kind of feature. This is, I would say, I'll give like the caveat of all this. This is like the more beta kind of feature here. None of this is probably finalized for a V1 release, but this is where we see, the actual what we've accomplished here is really clean in terms of pagination. So
you hackers, you dirty hackers.
Okay, so now I've got my episodes.astro.
Yeah.
And so then we can take a look in here. So I make a collection. And is this in a fenced block or?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got my fenced block, and inside I'm going to export let collection. Do I have to write TypeScript here? Or?
No, don't have to.
Okay. And then I have, let's see, export async function, create collection. Okay, so this is like the API where this is an Astro thing. It looks for a file with this function exported.
Yep.
And then I return, and I've got async, and let's get that.
Yeah, so when I talked earlier about that idea of moving data, like app building, data loading, all that stuff out of the UI framework and into a kind of common place, this is like the first kind of peek into what that looks like.
Okay.
Right. This is something that happens in an Astro file, but then, doesn't actually complicate how we have to do UI rendering.
So does data need to be a function like this?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll see, we'll start to add a couple other things there to get like the permalink right and a couple other things.
Async data. And then in here, I'm going to get my episodes. Okay. So now I've got my episodes. And then what happens?
Oh, I should say, so what we're doing here, let me double check this. It's actually been a while since I've tackled this. Well, we can do it together. I don't mean to get ahead. This is great. So what this definitely is doing is giving you a paginated list. Let's scroll down the README a bit.
Okay, so in each collection, we've got our data.
Yep.
And then we have, so these aren't quite what we're using, but so here we go we're getting all of our posts. And so we're not using local content, we're using external content. So instead we return all posts. Then we've got page size. So I'm just gonna return my episodes. And then page size, is there a thing I'm doing with this? Like I'm limiting the number we show?
Yeah, so if this for some reason returns like 100 things, I'm realizing, so this tutorial we can keep going, but this tutorial is actually creating a paginated like index. So if you wanted basically to list 10 episodes on every page, like a paginated collection, this is helping you build that.
Okay, should I do like a page size of 1 so that we can create each?
Oh yeah, let's try that.
So we got a page size of 1. And then in our, we don't need that part.
Oh my God. Okay, it's been a while. So I helped work on some of this. And then I went out for paternity leave and my brain has been fried since. So I'm actually learning a bit with you. Drew and Nate and Matthew have, I think, taken the torch on a lot of this stuff. So this is a learning experience for me as well.
Okay, so we exported the collection. And it exposes a prop to the page for Astro to return with all your data loaded. It must be named collection. Then we have to export create collection with data. And then we can collection data map.
Yep.
Okay, so
let's go. There's an example too. I think we're just jumping right into the advanced option here, which is great. But there's a code snippet that I think will help you out.
Is it in the reference or where am I looking?
Yeah, so example 2, it's right below where you're at. Well, we'll talk about both of these. I think they'll both help. This is kind of what you're starting. This is what this would eventually end up looking like. So you have that idea of like permalink down there. Routes kind of tells you like what we're basically trying to like, if you ever used Elder.js, there's definitely some inspiration from that as a framework and how they treat this. Basically, we're trying to like give you a framework for loading these things as data so that then the actual template rendering itself is really kind of lightweight and quick.
Okay.
So the pieces here are that we're loading the posts. So that's your like, the fetch that you're doing there, which is great. So that's our episodes array. Mm-hmm. We then are going to basically, like in this example, it's sorting it by tags and it's trying to like give you a filter. But I think what we're doing is basically saying, no, let's like basically do one on a page and it'll be the post itself. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you actually need a filter in any way there.
Okay.
Routes though is where you're basically taking that episode object and turning it into the thing that will get permalinked. So these are two parts of it. One is you're going to like basically, let's write the routes thing first.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got our routes, and then our routes is going to be episodes. Oops. Episodes dot map.
Yeah.
And for each
grab
episode,
the thing that you care about.
We want to return an object that has the slug, and that's going to be episode slug current.
Perfect.
Okay. And then down here, I'm going to get the slug in my permalink. And so I need to return schedule slug.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. Do I need
It
to...
might
Why
force
did
you
I
to make
double
it,
tag that? That doesn't make sense. Okay.
it might force you to make it like within, this might give an error later, but it's an easy one to fix if that's the case.
So then I have my collection.
Yeah, so now you can go back up to that HTML example that's a little bit above this, because that kind of shows the template rendering here. We're kind of hacking this a bit, but I actually kind of like it. So we might actually redesign this to double down on this a bit. Collection now is the variable that you have access to. So that's actually going to be rendered now full of content, like every slice of the collection. This template will be called on. So collection should be essentially, and let's actually log what it is on every page if you can. Like, do this exactly.
Okay, so let's do a pre-tag. And in this, we'll JSON stringify, and we'll set in the episode, null2.
And actually, I think you'll get better data. Just stringify collection itself. So instead of doing this map, like let's just stringify the whole collection object.
Works for me. So we'll get that out of there. And we're gonna stringify collection. And then let's do that style tag again so that our pre is 500 wide. And we'll overflow scroll so that we can see it. Close this tag up. And let's give it a shot.
All right.
Okay, so we didn't go to any of these pages, so I should be able to go to like, oh, you know what I can do then? I can change our episodes. Instead of being a direct link, we can go relative link. And that should take us into our pages.
All coming together.
And
okay, so I think this is the bug I was talking about, which should be a little bit more obvious. Because you called this collection file schedule/episodes.astro, I believe the permalink has to be that same schedule/episodes. So let's edit that in a couple places.
So
episodes
like here?
Yeah, there.
Oh, so if I want it to be at the top, I would just call this schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's...
You can do that as well. That might be even easier.
Yeah, let's do that. That'll be easier, I think, than... let's go schedule, and then we'll move this out and delete this folder that we don't need.
Perfect.
And then we'll go in here and get rid of that part.
The last thing is, are you putting the slug in the A link correctly? Oh, well, that looks like it worked.
That looks like it worked, but we didn't get any data in collection, which...
So I wonder if the slug matches.
Good question. Can we see the output somewhere? Source pages schedule.astro. And it says...
Oh yeah, no, it is episode slug current.
So let's see here. Did I do something wrong in my... We got our episodes, got our page size. Maybe I make my page size 10.
Yeah, see what?
No. Let me try one of the other ones. It's not the one that's happening right now. No, it's not that.
The other thing, which this is, again, so data software, doing the build will at the very least show you like what are the kind of places that you're expected to, although you're not getting not found, so it's just an empty collection.
Yeah, it's giving me an empty collection, but let's see what it builds. So we'll do Npm Run Build, and let's see what pages it's trying to build. We'll poke around in here.
Yeah, so pages built, dist.
So it gives us schedule, and it only gives us index.html.
So strange.
And that is also empty.
Someone mentioned, did you return in the chat? And I thought that was out. No, you did, yeah.
Let's check. It's definitely possible that I didn't.
No, I think you
I
did.
returned the episodes. We did it async. We are awaiting it.
Oh, now this is definitely like, let's try. Yeah, log there. And also the doc example ends param.tag, ends the permalink with a slash. I can't imagine that's it, but worth a shot.
Okay, so let's npm run dev again. Nope, that's not what it was. It was start. GitHub Actions fork PRs. Okay, let's try one of these.
That's so interesting. So it runs on the server. So a console log should show up there.
It's running something.
Oh, you know what? No, create collection is async. What could this be?
So we've got our data. We are returning. It's finding.
Put a console log in create collection. I wonder if that's just not even being run. I mean, this serves at least me right for being like, yeah, let's just throw like an experimental feature at the wall in the last 20 minutes. Let's end on a high note.
No, it's so something is not doing what we wanted it to.
That's so strange.
A viewport is not specified. Like, do I need to add more? Like, do I need to make it into an actual doc here?
Maybe. Oh, yeah, maybe. Right, because this is a page, so you do want to make sure that
it is a whole page.
Yeah.
So let me go get the rest of our page here. And we'll throw this in and see if it makes a difference.
Good call on that.
Well, I mean, it's rendering, right? Like it's pulling in the right template,
yeah.
But we're not getting our data. And is it because I typoed a thing? Export let collection. I'm going to make it TypeScript. No, that wasn't it. We found a problem TypeScript can't solve, I guess.
No, specifically that any can't solve.
Yeah.
that's always my when in doubt, throw an any on it.
Let's see. In the docs example, the data was outside the return statement.
No, it's not even being run. I think this is a bug, and we went through some pretty active development as we were getting this ready for release. I wonder if we're just hitting something silly that changed at the last minute.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. We got. I mean, we're in good shape for the most part. So what else should we look at in our remaining 5 minutes? Is there anything else you wanted to show?
Yeah, there's one that we can end on something that is definitely in the template. So I know this works. The idea of kind of taking this components for HTML example, like that whole idea. There's one other really part, and I think it's really related to you pulling in the page content here, which is the idea of head and body and layouts being parts of your component, component tree at least. So the idea here, we're like, okay, now you have 2 pages, right? You have your index and your schedule.
Right.
You can start to see already there's a lot of common head data here, right? You have your meta, you have your title, you have your link.
I have a theory. Are we about to make a header.astro?
Yeah, let's make a head, like a common header component here.
Okay, so we've got a common header. I'm going into my index and I'm going to grab. How much can I template out here?
Sorry, I had instead of header. So even like, let's take a look at like metadata on the page. So what's in the head of what would it be? Index.astro.
Yeah, so in our head, we've got all of this stuff. We've got the viewport, we've got our favicon, and what we would also need, we've got a title that would need to change. Eventually we would need like open graph tags and all that good stuff. So let's go back to the common head. And if I drop this in, I would want this to be a variable.
Yep.
And maybe that's enough. So how does that work in Astro?
Yeah, so let's keep this a bit more composable. So let's remove the head so that you could kind of mix and match this.
Okay.
Like, yeah, strip that line. Good to go. And then let's just use this now as a component inside of index. So now you can go into index.astro and just replace that with an import.
Okay, so I've got common head.
And just strip it all out.
Okay, I have now saved my common head, and if I go back to my home page, hit it, and we can see like things still work. So if I go to my elements, let me close the console up, we can pop open the head and see that all those pieces came in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last thing, which we haven't really talked about, but it's it's an important part of making this a fully functional component system, is that you can pass props. So let's say, let's pretend that we actually have multiple pages, multiple titles. Let's add like a title equals Astro, or maybe give it something different so we can tell that it changes. Like, I don't know, anything.
Okay, we've done it.
So now we need to accept that in the common head. So we borrow a lot from Svelte here. So define your, what would be a code frame? And same idea as Svelte, you would do export let title equals, or nothing, just that's it.
Okay.
So that's defining title as a prop.
And so if I want to default, actually, let's try this first. So I'm changing this, and I can see if I hover, it did change. And if I pop open this part here, it changed. Okay, great. Now if I then use this and I forget this part, let's just delete that for a second. Then I get an empty title. So then if I want to make this default, whoops, common header, then I can I just make that a default?
You got it.
And now in the head, we have a default, but if I go back to my index and remove whatever I did there, save again, and look in the head, it's overriding. Cool. Okay, perfect. So we've got the idea of default props. We've got the ability to pass things in a way that's very familiar. JSX, I think, is pretty familiar. If you've worked in any of the JavaScript frameworks, you've probably seen it. I mean, this is slick. This is I can see, it obviously, as you said, it's early. So I'm excited to see as things kind of stabilize and everything. But this is a really, really exciting way of looking at this stuff. We've got the ability to write HTML, write CSS, and we get some of those little things that help, like scoped styles, which is really nice to just know that if I write styles in a component, it's going to be scoped to the component I wrote it in. I'm not going to get those collisions, so I don't have to have long names or remember how those conventions work. I know that if I write some HTML, or even if I write some JavaScript like we did with our menu here, we wrote a React component, that I'm not shipping that React unless I explicitly opt in like we did with this button. So when I go to my tour here, there's the tour, I have to explicitly opt into a button by pulling it in like so. We get common bits with a common header, so we can share. We get all those templating things that we want. There's a lot to like about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a different understanding of the base of an application. Being more HTML focused means we can actually do these per component optimizations, because we're thinking of your page as a collection of components. That's kind of the HTML model taken to the new world of components. So instead of tags, it's components, but it just opens the door for so many cool things that you can't do in the current set of more JavaScript appy things.
Yeah, I mean, and really to just reiterate what I think the biggest benefit here is that JavaScript frameworks gave us so much power and so much excellent developer experience. And as we worked on those, we found reasons to use it all over the place, because it feels so nice to be able to componentize things, share those components, make things reusable. The process is just really good. The tooling around building in Vue and React and Svelte, it's very good tooling. So we want to use that. But the downside to it is that a lot of times we're putting static content on the page by writing dynamic framework languages. And without some kind of intermediary, we end up shipping a lot of JavaScript. and people don't need it. I don't need to load JavaScript to read a blog post, but I really like that I can write my blog posts in JavaScript. So this is giving people the ability to a certain extent, have their cake and eat it too. We can write JSX and make these components and do the JavaScripty things that we want to do to render that content, but we're not shipping that to the end user. The end user is just seeing the static content that we generated, unless we specifically say, this piece needs to do some magic on the client side, like load some JavaScript for that.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's that like static and quick by default. You opt in where you need it, but if you don't do anything, you're just getting a fast site without really trying.
Yeah.
Versus the flip of, okay, well, to have a fast site, you need to, and then it's like a checklist almost. This is the total flip of that model.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm super excited. I think there's a lot to like here. It's very this is promising. And as I said earlier, I'm super excited to see the innovation happening in this space. I think what the work that you're doing, the work that I'm seeing across the ecosystem, just makes me really excited about seeing the next wave of how we're going to innovate on top of ES modules and the stabilizing specs of JavaScript and CSS and all the work that the browser teams are doing. It's going to be a fun time. I think it's a fun time to be a web developer. Like I'm always excited to see what people are coming up with.
Yeah,
so
it's a really exciting time.
For somebody who wants to learn more, what are some good next steps? Where should they go next?
So for Astro specifically, we've definitely written out a lot of docs. We're kind of constantly working on that, especially so close to launch. We're just getting a ton of feedback on GitHub. Our Discord is probably the best place to come, just like join us, ask questions.
And where do we find that Discord?
Oh, yeah. Is it still there? It used to be kind of hidden. Like you had to like open your console log. We thought we were so clever. Post launch, it's just a link on the page.
Okay.
Astro.build/chat.
Yeah, get down here, get that. Where else? Anywhere else? Make sure you go and we'll go follow Fred for updates. I imagine you're going to be tweeting about those.
Yep, definitely. So that's a great place to kind of find out what's going on. I'm trying to tweet about it. And then Astro.build is the official Twitter account for the project. So
that's right.
Plenty of announcements coming out of there as well.
Twitter, Astro.build. There it is.
And yeah, especially, if anyone, like if you have a framework you love that hasn't been mentioned, if you have a feature that you love that you want to learn more about, we're trying to really build a great contributor community, a great open source project here first and foremost. So we're definitely looking for people to get involved, join us in the chat, join us on GitHub. It's really early days of this project. So
yeah,
there's a lot of cool stuff that we can go from here that we're excited about.
All right. Well, this has been great. So as always, this show has been live captioned. We've had Rachel here from White Coat Captioning, keeping up with all the nonsense I spew and all the smart things Fred says the whole time. So thank you very much, Rachel, for being here and putting up with me. That is made possible by our sponsors, Netlify, Fauna, Auth0, and Hasura, all of whom are kicking in a little bit of cash to make this show more accessible to more people, which means a lot to me. While you are checking out the homepage for those live captions, remember you can head over to the schedule. We've got a lot of really fun stuff coming up. So we are going to do, Ben, he's in the chat today. We're going to do better screen reader experiences with CSS, which screen readers and CSS I thought weren't things that affected each other. And I'm really excited to learn how I'm wrong. We've got Sarah Diane coming. We're going to do JavaScript autocomplete with Algolia. That's going to be really, really fun. Brian Douglas is coming back. We're going to do some forked PRs work. There's a lot of fun, exciting stuff coming up. So make sure you head over to the site. There's even more in here that I'm not going to talk about today, but make sure you go check those out. Hit this add on Google Calendar button so that you get all the new episodes added to your Google Calendar automatically. And make sure you follow the Learn with Jason account on Twitch and on Twitter, because there's just fun stuff there, right? With that, y'all, I think we're going to call this one done. Fred, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Chat, stay tuned. We're going to go find somebody to raid. We will see you next time.